there are fewer wounds that we pick up in this world that sting more than betrayal. It requires a friend to betray. It requires one who is in one's confidence and in whom one places trust and some level of reliability. You can't be betrayed by an enemy. You can't be betrayed by a disinterested third party. The pain of betrayal is twofold then. One, that it's one that you love that has done this thing, and two, that you have no defense against it. You can't defend against betrayal. By the nature of the friendship, you can't. I mean, sure, you can take precautions. Jesus obviously knew what was going to happen here. But ultimately, it's a dagger that you can't quite stop. We've all experienced betrayal. Well, I shouldn't say we all have. Some of us might not have. But even if it's in grade school, even if it's in that first experience of someone that you trusted doing something that you would never expect them to do that hurt you, even if it's, stealing your favorite eraser or, stealing your best friend or whatever petty things that we talk about as we're little kids. And we grow up and those dangers remain present. What I find remarkable about Jesus' relationship with Judas, is that it is even of Judas that upon the cross Jesus says, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." Judas had disordered appetites like we all have. He had personal expectations that like we all have of God. And he was willing to go that extra step to try to force God's providence or to force what he thought God's plan ought to be, take it into his own power. So Judas's betrayal didn't come from a hatred of Jesus, right? You don't have to hate a person to betray them. It came from an overinflation of his own expectation, a thinking that I deserve this or I'm going to make this happen, rather than to allow, in a meek way, to let the Lord's providence unfold in its own time. And so when Jesus says of Judas Iscariot specifically, it's better for him that he was never, what he has done and what will happen to him because of it would be better that he was never born. Jesus is not saying that because Judas hates Jesus. He's saying that because Judas made himself Judas saw himself as a more dominant operator in the history of salvation than God himself. I'm going to force this. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to hand him over, and surely after I hand him over, he'll break the chains like Solomon knocked over the pillars in the temple, and he'll rise up, and all of Israel will rally to him. He did, after all, say, when I'm raised up, all people will come to me. He'll rally Israel, and he'll kick out the Romans. So it was from this noble pursuit and this noble idea that Judas betrays Jesus, and Jesus doesn't give two flips about Judas's motivation. He only cares that Judas betrayed him. Right? And for us, when we're betrayed by someone, we really don't care. So many times the way people hurt us, the hurt to us far exceeds their intention to hurt us. Because oftentimes people don't even have intention to hurt us when they hurt us. They just want something that they want more than their care for whether or not it hurts us. Right? And so, but when we get betrayed, when we get hurt by other people, we couldn't care less why. We only care that we were hurt, that we were betrayed. Right? And this intimacy and then the depth of pain, the depth of injury that betrayal causes is why, for example, Dante Alighieri in his Divine Comedy, in the first part of the Divine Comedy, the Inferno, puts the betrayer in the lowest circle of hell. the darkest, coldest, nastiest pit of that abominable place, right? The betrayer in the mouth of the wretched creature Lucifer is being chewed on for eternity among Brutus and Cassius, Judas Iscariot, right? Because of the depth of that betrayal. And in that same ring of hell, Dante also places those who betray their benefactors, those who betray their family, and those who betray their country. Right? Because there's no defense against it. And this is what's beautiful about Jesus. Jesus could have not let Judas betray him. But in order to do that, he would have had to have broken his own plan. So instead of preventing his betrayal, Jesus remains open in love to Judas, even though Judas is going to betray him and has betrayed him and did betray him. This is probably the hardest example of Jesus' passion for us to follow. To not become callous from the wounds that we receive in relationships in life. Not to become callous and hardened over and to lose the ability to love, because it's far better for us to say, I will never love and I'll never be loved again, and then I'll never be hurt again. Or to some variation of that. Than to say, as Jesus does, I will remain entirely open to love everyone who is in front of me, even if that risks being hurt. Because I love them. When we love them more than we love ourselves, we are more interested in what they need and what we can give them than what they might do to hurt us. After years and years and years of living with a spouse, I'm sure this is a really important thing to consider. How many times, guys, does the wife bring up something you did 35 years ago in an argument, right? That's that withdrawing, right? There's been a closedness there. And there's some tender application of care that needs to be given to allow that callus to fall off, to allow that heart to be opened again. Right? From the cross, Jesus does not pray for those that he sees as his enemy. He prays for those who, even though they hurt him, he still loves with the same affection that he had loved them before they betrayed him. Because he doesn't love them for himself. He loves them for them. We live in a culture that is, this cancel culture. When we hear that somebody has done something that we disapprove of, we just shut them down. When we hear through 8 parties removed, a grapevine that's far longer than any that Jesus had in mind in John 15 when he said, I'm the vine and you're the branches. We hear that someone has done something that like disquiets us. We just shut them down. We don't seek reconciliation. We don't seek to talk to them. We don't ask, how can I love them? Because that's my responsibility as a Christian, is not to be loved, but to love. No matter who it is, whether it's a relationship up from where I am or down from where I am, or straight across in friendship. It's my job to love them, not my job to condescend to let them love me. If there's no more beautiful example of what love really means than to understand the depth of hurt that happens with Judas's betrayal, and Jesus still loving him. That's what set Judas off on a track that he could not repent from, because in his pride he could not understand the love that Jesus had for him. we can be that broken too if we're not careful. It comes from pride. To not understand the kind of love that Jesus has for you and me. Because we think we're too bad. Because we think we've hurt too much. Or simply because we think we are owed. We won't be able to understand this love. So there's a forward and a backwards meditation on this gospel then. One is how can I reopen myself to those in my life who have betrayed me after I've been hurt by them, so that I can love better again. And then two, how do I do that love? Following the example of Jesus, asking only and always, how may I love you? How may I reconcile with you? How may I do for you? How may I give of myself for you? Not for my own sake, but because you are simply lovable.